to tell a true story, and it is true, every word of it. But to understand the story, you have to understand how a hand grenade works. A lot of people think if you pull the pin out, it's going to blow up. That's wrong. If we have a look at the diagram here, I've mentioned first of all that it's called the Mills hand grenade, originally called the Mills bomb, and it was invented in 1915 for the First World War, and we still use them because it's a very simple kind of weapon, and it's basically a bomb. And if you look at it, the pieces, I've got the pin drawn up here, fits in the hole at the top. There's a spring clip runs down the side, and the pin holds the spring clip in. The moment you pull the pin out, nothing happens. Because if you're holding the grenade in your hand, it only weighs less than 2 pounds. Right, less than 2 pounds. It's not terribly heavy. The idea is you're going to throw it like a cricket ball. The point being that when you throw it, this spring clip on the side flies off. And when it flies off and comes out of there, it allows the detonator, or sorry, not the detonator, the plunger, or here we are, plunger or striker, that's locked in here at the top, to go down and instantly fire this cap. When it fires that cap, that sets fire to the fuse. And with most of these hand grenades, they're fitted with a 7-second fuse. So once the fuse started burning, and you see when that's happening, the grenade starts to smoke, and it burns up until it reaches the detonator, where the detonator goes off and fires all the explosive that's in here. And because the grenade is actually made up with lots of little segments, the whole thing blows apart, and all the little segments, look a bit like this one over here, will all fly off in all directions, and I mean every direction, up, sideways, downwards, etc. And they won't just fly off. If you expect them all to go like that, that's not going to happen, because a lot of them are going to be spinning. They might be spinning one way, another way. They're just flying through the air any which way. And so if they happen to get you, some of them might just go straight through you, some of them might do a fair bit of cutting on the way through, depending on how they're spinning. So it's quite a deadly device. But notice, as I said, it will not go off unless you let it go, which allows that spring to fly off. And when that flies off, it starts to fire the mechanism. So we all understand that? Because the story I'm telling you is a true story. The one that happened to me. For a start, I'll mention that in May 1945, at Kapuka Army Camp, which is near Wagga, we had the largest amount of deaths on Australian territory for the Second World War. People had, well, the trainees had gone into a bunker which was very like the bunker that I went into. The bunker was made of entry tunnel and tunnel that went through across it, and they were in the 27 men in there, and they were doing or learning something about using explosives. They didn't have hand grenades, they had something else. But the thing was that during whatever they were being taught, we don't know what caused it, but the whole place blew up. And 26 Australian trainee soldiers all died, killed instantly. Only one, the 27th, survived. He's been unable to tell the military what caused the explosion because he was not paying attention. He was talking to somebody away from where the lecture was going on, talking to somebody beside him. So it's never been known what caused the explosion. The 27th bloke, just of interest, he was found blown into the earthworks on one side of one of the tunnels. Had to dig him out of the side of the wall. He survived. But that shows you how deadly these things can be and how simple it is, particularly when you're a little tunnel mechanism. And when I did my national service in 1959, January, February, March, so it was only a 3-month one. So we had to experience everything. In that we did duties and jobs all over the military camp. But we also had to fire a rifle, fire the Bren gun, fire an Owen gun, throw a hand grenade, and so on. We had to have an experience of almost everything the Army could teach us or want us to know. And on this occasion, we were driven out to the grenade range, unloaded off trucks, taken in where you went down a tunnel, and you came to where it branched both sides. And on each side, where it opened out, there was an open area where somebody could throw a grenade from, and in front of you there was, shall we say, a wall about that high. So it was easy enough to get over. And the main thing was that once you threw your hand grenade, you had to duck down. So you're protected by the wall. And up behind you in the tower is the person who's supervising or overseeing the whole of the exercise and what you're doing. And we had to, when you threw it, stay standing up, looking at our grenade, seeing where it landed, watching it starting to smoke, and know it's going to go off very shortly, because most of them had a 7-second fuse. So from the time you let it go, when the clip flew off and the mechanism started working, you had 7 seconds till it blew up. And we had to stand there watching where it landed, seeing it starting to belch out smoke, waiting for the bloke up top there to tell us when to duck down. That was a bit unnerving. Right. I'd thrown mine, had my turn, and then after a few more had their go, we had one of the very tall trainees, he was probably about 6'1" or 2, and he came out when his name was called, and he stood in the place where you throw from, and the regular army bloke supervising everything was a fellow called Murphy. Murphy was a bit of a character. To all his mates he was known as 23:59, which was 1 minute to midnight, because that's when he'd come back into camp. He loved 2 things. He loved the grog, and he loved women. That's why he came in at the last minute. He was a little short Irish bloke, so he's not very tall. He usually looked every day for somebody he could punish. You only had to commit some sort of misdemeanour or another, pay something properly, and he would tell you he would see you that night after tea, about 7:30, and he would take you for a run. The idea was he might take you over the salt course, or he might take you run up one of the hills, and there were plenty of those down Puckapunyal. And
so he can come.
Yeah, the poor fellow who went with him always came back, excuse the expression, but totally buggered. He came back into the hut, staggered in, lay down on his bed, and he had it. But then Murphy would show up about 5 minutes later with a bottle of Coca-Cola for him. So in that way it was good. But what Murphy was doing, Murphy was very, very fit. He liked the grog. So every evening, he probably had a bit of a skinful after 4 o'clock. So he always had someone chosen who was going to go with him for his exercise. And he was fit. And on this particular particular thing on the grenade range, this short bloke was conducting what we were doing. And after I'd thrown mine, this rather tall, probably about 6'1" or 2", trainee came out. After his name was called, he was handed his grenade. Grenade always fits very snugly into your hand. And you always put it with the spring clip in the middle of your hand. So it's underneath the grenade. That's the way you hold it before you're going to throw it. And so this bloke had it in his hand, and Murphy stood back and said, "Righto, now you can throw it." And the bloke went, and he froze. Absolutely froze. Stiff as a board. I'm sitting about from here to view away from him. At the face end of the tunnel, I'm the first at the tunnel, there's a bloke sitting opposite me. But I'm only about from here to here away from where the grenade is, where it's being thrown from. Murphy goes over and puts his hand up in front of him, but no way of reaching up that far. Comes back into the tunnel and grabs a couple of boxes of grenades. They were all sealed up boxes. One down in front of him, another on top of that, and then he gets up on top of the boxes. I'm in a position where I can not only just see, I can hear what's going on. Because the whole time, from when he started, Murphy is softly talking to this bloke and telling him he's going to help him and telling him to remain calm. And Murphy gets up on the boxes and slowly, when he can reach the grenade, starts to peel his fingers off the hand grenade and put his own fingers in, one at a time. All the time making sure when he gets his fingers in, he's got them over the clip. So the grenade can't blow up. And eventually he gets all his fingers in and he's got the grenade in his hand with the clip at the base and picks up a pin. There would be a whole lot of pins lying on the ground because everybody doesn't bother to pick them up. So he would have, once he had it in his hand, he would have inserted the pin. The hand grenade then is not going to go up. Right, it's then rendered safe so he can put it somewhere else. And Murphy got the poor fella who's frozen. Yeah, talking to him all the time, settling down and then gradually with an arm around him, walking down the tunnels and out where the trucks were to take him back to the camp. So that was my experience of sitting there, view to me, just that close, and watching the whole procedure. With not thinking at the time, unless the thing was dropped and went rolling across the ground somewhere, then I was right at the front of where it was going to blow up. Hadn't occurred to me. So that's my little story.
Can I ask a little question? Once they remove the pin, okay, and follow the procedure that you say to stop it from blowing up, you can actually get another pin and put it back like...
The pins are all the same. They're all like that.
Right.
You know, like a pointed piece with a circle on it that you put your finger through.
Right, right.
Yeah, and it holds the spring in. So it's easy enough while you're holding the grenade in your hand and got hold of the clip. You can push the pin back in and it's safe. It won't go off.